discussion on how automotive transformation is reshaping tooling need. And let me invite the moderator in the next couple of seconds first, because normally during a panel, we always offer the pick of the chair to the moderator so that it's much easier. And then we have the discussion happening. Over the discussion, if there is time that is there, I am sure the moderator and the panelists would encourage you to ask in questions. You have pencils and pens on your tables. Please feel free to jot down a question if you feel that you need an answer for. Also, if the answer hasn't been given to you during the discussion, offline, there is so much of time for you to engage, network, and just have a discussion on that particular point that is pertinent in your mind. So we'd encourage that as well. You can see that our stage is all set. So please join me as I invite the moderator, Mr. Nishant Kashyap, editor, TAGMA Times, and consulting editor, ETManufacturing. Mr. Kashyap, the stage is all yours. The pick of the chair, whichever you want. Sure. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take the opportunity and the privilege of inviting your panelists up right here. Mr. M.G. Padmanabha, Purchasing Quality and Technology Plastics Rubber, Bosch Limited. Let's welcome him, please. Mr. Santosh Kulkarni, Vice President, Bajaj Auto. Mr. Sumit Rathore, ME Head, T Connectivity. And last but not the least, Mr. Mittul Soni, MD, Nagata. With this, let me hand over the stage to the expertise of our panelists and, of course, our moderator. Over to you.
Thanks, Himansi. Thank you so much to all the speakers for joining us for the 9th edition of ITS. And thanks to everyone for coming up in such a large number. It's extremely well we are going. And as we know, the topic of the discussion is how the automotive transformation is shaping the way we manufacture the tools and dies. So we are already running late, so I'll just get to the point and the question answer. So, we can finish it off also on time. So just to start on the topic, we know there are so many transformation happening in the automotive industry, and automotive being one of the largest consumer of tool and die. Whatever happens in automotive directly impacts the tool making business as well. So we know EVs, new fuels, lightweighting, all these things are impacting the tool makers business. So my first question to you, Mr. Kulkarni, what are the global trend you see in the automotive industry, which we as in the tooling community should be aware of?
Hello. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. And first, let me start by thanking TAGMA for having me here in this wonderful event and being a part of this, the panel discussion that we are going to have. I'm sure it's going to be very interesting. The tone has been set very nicely by all the the members, the distinguished members who were the keynote address and all. So one thing that we need to understand is that the need for the industry has been changing ever since its birth, and every time you reach to another level, there is always something next to be done. So putting in very simple terms, the most important need for any industry, whether it is automotive industry or the medical industry or any other fraternity, is like we had talked about it last time as well, is this QCD. Now the parameters that define the QCD for every era are ever changing. This is the context that you are trying to put in. So when you are getting international players operating in India, it attains a even more bigger attention for the Indian fraternity to live up to those expectations. We've seen people talk about capability, credibility. So these are certain things which have been impacting the scale of business that we people are into. And everybody is talking about turnaround time. The time to market is absolutely essential, and it puts you ahead of the competition if you are doing in better ways. So in that sense, if you have to decipher this and put down 3-4 important things that the tooling industry that needs to understand here and improve their capability and credibility and go to the next level, is there is no scope for a trial and a retrial and then perfecting their own work and then submitting their parts or tools and whatever. So what is important here is that they have to follow a very important PDCA, which is benchmarking themselves against what the competition is doing, what they are themselves, and where the world is leading to. And that will come only when there's an international exposure to the expectations for any tool room. So first, I would say that they need to benchmark themselves. Second is to standardize every aspect of their work, whether it is whether it is the RFQ or quotation or any aspect, any process which they are following in house, it has to be standardized. And the third thing that is very important is to practice and make yourself perfect. With these three things and continuous cycle of this, it's not going to be stationary that if I have benchmarks today, it's going to remain the same next year or the year to come after that. So just to answer your question very in a simple way is that you have to follow this PDSA cycle for yourself and then evolve for the change scenario, which is changing every year. It's not going to remain stationary even for a year or so. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's expectation from OEM. Sir, to you, you are one of the largest, tier one globally, and you supply, you have a diverse application for EVs to IC, everything. How do you see the transformation taking shape and it's impacting the tooling business?
Okay, so let me put it this way. So T connectivity is basically a solution provided for multiple applications. So in power, signal, and data connectivity. So the majority of the products what we manufacture is the connectors, right? So connectors and terminals. But as we see EV coming in, right? So we also entered, sorry, into the charge inlet and then you can say the connectors business. So if you see fundamentally there are different applications, different designs. So when it comes to a connector, it's it's basically supposed to perform application at a few amperes to a couple of 12-13 amperes, as well as when it comes to a charge inlet, it has a multiple times, the current rating goes higher. So when it comes to tool design consideration, so when a connector is basically designed, it's a multi-cavity tooling, right? So, and then it is designed to produce at least, 15-20 million parts a year. So it has to be a more life and then, production oriented. So the tooling has to be hardened, right? This is one aspect. And the cycle times are very, very lower in terms of connector. So the range is somewhere between 8 to 12 seconds, So in that case, when you set a process, right? When you inject the plastic into the mold, it's hardly takes, 0.1 to 0.2 seconds. So in that case, it really becomes, important, the amount of air which is there in the cavity. So it has to be extracted, at the same rate. So now, earlier, the vents were there traditionally, but now there is a technology of vacuum molding, right? So there is a device attached to the mold, right? Which before injection takes place, it brings out the entire air from the cavity, which, again, a different aspect of the design. And when it comes to this charge inlet sort of thing, right? So these are thicker in cross section, right? So they enable more of additive manufacturing, conformal cooling, right? So which we cannot, use in more of connector because, the construction is different, you have to place inserts in stacks, accuracy tolerances are much, much tighter. And the wall thickness, when we talk of connector, it's somewhere in some connect application, it's 150 to 120 microns also. So that's a fundamental. Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much. Mr. Padmanabha, to you, you are again one of the largest tier one and also one of the largest aftermarket suppliers as well. So what are the new technologies or capabilities tool makers should adopt in order to be more relevant in the the future?
Oh, first of all, thank you for TAGMA for inviting me for this panel discussions. I would like to talk like Mr. Gopal Krishnan, what he said, talk from my heart. Really what we see a lot of challenges with the tool makers at the moment is the skill set, where we see a lot of gaps. One, I would like to tell one example where I visited Switzerland and talked to a few tool makers over there. One tool maker, he started an industry and now he sold the industry. He said, no, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a tool maker. He said that his father was a tool maker, his grandfather was a tool maker. He wants, because that is the passion. The tool makers must have passion. Without a passion, really, it is not easy to work on the tool room. What problems we face is generally the matching, like what TE has issues with respect to the different vents, sub-inserts, where we see a lot of gaps the tool makers do, the accuracy of tool making is really a lot of issues, and this leads to a number of iterations where at T1 or T2 we don't see the part coming out, it goes up to T4, T5, it is not good for the industry. Where the tool making industry can focus on is developing the skill set of the tool makers and also recruiting like veterans who can give their inputs and their knowledge to the budding tool makers, which will really help the industry.
Yes, sir, that kind of family I think you won't find in Europe also nowadays. That could be just one of the families.
Yeah.
But you pointed out a great thing. Skill development is the key. So over to you, Mr. Mittul. As sole tool maker in this panel, you have the responsibility to talk about what you expect from the automotive industry. So my question to you is, how are you preparing as a tool maker with this transformation going on in the global automotive industry?
So I heard very, my all industry colleagues, veterans sitting next to me. You see, the industry is really become very structured. Let's go back 10 years down the line. The RFQs, what we used to get, were not structured, scattered. Now there is a template. We get, die manufacturing standards. We get a format. In the format, we have to submit the quotation. So broadly, for the buyers, whether it is tier one or the OEM, it's apple to apple comparison. Having said that, the industry is really evolving. I just heard that we are aiming something, and before we reach there, the situation has changed. So before you reach that particular point, what is your interim goal? You have to change the strategy and start something new. For example, I'm from sheet metal, and if we see the industry has really, grown in last 10 to 15 years. A lot of, fellow tool makers are here. We have been focusing on high tensile. We have been focusing on very critical toolings of the skin panels, and to an extent, as an industry, we had been quite successful in the localization. But somehow, the penetration of the ultra high tensile has hit us so hard and so quickly, which very candid submission from my side, we never envisaged. But still not that late, right? And I'm sure the way things are turning up, we will be able to catch up. Still not to catch up. We'll work hard and we'll be able to catch up.
Thank you so much. Mr. Sumit, at T connectivity, I'm sure you must have sourced a lot of tools from out of India, or you must be still doing it, and you must be sourcing some tools from India as well. Can you tell us how has your experience been with dealing with the Indian tool makers versus the overseas tool makers?
So let me be frank on this. So right now also, like we at T, so most of the tooling right now we get it from outside, right? So the thing is that I'm not saying that we do not have good tool room, right? But the kind of industry we are in, it's a very high precision industry. So imagine a stamping die running at a SPM of 1000 or 1200 SPM, right? Similarly, what I said is the mold which we manufacture, this accuracy of 2 to 3 microns, right? So it's need a commitment, right? So it cannot be a transactional kind of a business, right? So that's the thing which I feel we as a Indian tooling industry we need to understand, right? So it's not that the machines which we supposed to run on the hourly basis. It has a more value to create. So just to answer your question, the engagement we are doing, it's a bit early stage. We are working with couple of tool makers and then tool rooms, so that at least we can indigenize that tool manufacturing. So that is how we look. Yeah.
So the tools that you are still sourcing from outside, what are the reasons that you are sourcing? Is this the technical capability, the cost, or the skill?
Yeah. So first of all, is time to market, the lead time, right? So I mean, what we get in the weeks, so we get here in months. So that's one major aspect. And then in certain cases, right? So we also have our own tool room at in T. So certain things, but when the complete project comes, so we have to, of course, offload things, right? So in right now, what we are doing, we are not getting the complete solution from the local tool makers, right? So we are getting the things done in the bits and pieces. So our aim is to at least we get a good tool makers, right? Tool rooms where we get the complete solution, right? So we get a tool which is proved and dimensionally qualified. So that's, I mean, actually, I'm looking forward.
Thank you. Follow-up question to you, Mr. Kulkarni. We also saw what Mr. Asim Sarma mentioned that, in India, we make it in 140 days versus the 80-90 days in overseas tool makers. And you operate in a highly, rapid time to market industry, two-wheeler, three-wheeler. How has your experience been with the Indian tool makers, and how are your tool requirements are met?
See, it is actually a follow-up question which you very correctly mentioned, and it is a continuation to what my co-panelists have mentioned. And those thoughts have been there ever since I've been hearing since morning. There is a lot of discussion happening on having an ecosystem. Now, when you say ecosystem, what does it mean? So ecosystem is your tier 1, the tier 2, and the tier N, who is responsible for everything which happens at a particular pace in order to fetch the part and the product to the market at the shortest possible time and at the lowest possible cost. So when we say lowest possible, doesn't mean that it is going to come cheap, or you make substandard toolings or you make substandard parts. So what we have been advocating for a pretty long time is that there is a very active engagement which is required from a particular OE and their own ecosystem, whether it is the tool maker. So you'll have to handhold them to make sure that the cost or the standards to which the tool has to be built is very, very clearly ingrained into their entire so when it comes to any part family, look at a motorcycle or look at a car, there are various part families. So why do you actually need to finalize the cost every time? It should start from that level. So that is the only way to make sure that there is a complete connectivity between the tool maker, the tier 1, and the OE who is finally consuming those parts. So in order to achieve that shortest possible time, you have to standardize, as I already mentioned. We have to standardize, which I already mentioned, and many other aspects which have been missed in the earlier projects have to be factored in, and how to better those things is, is a continuous evolving process. So being a cluster approach, having, standardization, and hand holding for making sure that, my needs are clearly understood by the tool maker and the delivery is happening as per time. I'll give an example for, how you look at shortest possible time. Many years back, we had thought of benchmarking the foreign tool makers, and what is the difference between them and what we can make here. So we had offloaded a tool to a tool room in Windsor, which is in Canada, and I had gone there to attend the trial. So the day I went there, he showed me that, sir, this is the tool, and it was only a steel block. And the seventh day, I had a trial in front of me, and the tool room was operated by only two people working on all machines, without having any external support for any activity. So the benchmark is there. So this is the gap that we need to bridge for our people to come up to that stage. So this is what I would specifically tell all our Indian tool makers to achieve this.
Thank you. Mr. Padmanabha, we know that Bosch has very strict quality and efficiency guidelines. What are your suggestions to the Indian tool makers if they really want to become your suppliers? What kind of quality guidelines, what kind of processes they should follow?
What Indian tool makers has to follow with respect to meet our quality requirements is, first is the skill set. Skill set not only with respect to the mold making, even down the line of process, for example, the machinist, the EDM operator, or the turning guy must understand about the tools. If he understands, definitely he will manufacture that particular part of the tool. He knows that somewhere some draft has to be there and how to polish it. And so that is very much important in the tooling industry. Here what we see, a machinist only does the turning, but he does not know where it is used for, why it is used for. This is there. And also another thing what we see the gap is with respect to the measurement capabilities and troubleshooting of the molds. They do the measurements, but they don't know how to troubleshoot, meet the requirement like steel safe, and achieve the dimension specification with minimum lifetime of trials. So this is very much important for a tool maker to take care.
And you have been mentioning about skill development since since last question also. What are your suggestions to the Indian tooling community as a whole to enhance, uplift the overall skill, skill development?
There are a lot of institutes. There are a lot of institutes like GDTC, NTTF, CPET. Here, there are many institutes, but the tool makers who are coming out of these institutes are really the training is not up to the standard of what was earlier. So the training has to be improved, first thing. And second thing is in the industry, we see that tool makers, they work for a few years. They don't want to dirty their hands. They just move out of the industry. They go into learning software, simulation, product designs. They move out of that. How to motivate them, keep them in the tool making job. This is very much important. The reason is they move out is maybe because of higher pay and clean job. So if they have a passion, interest, they stay back. Otherwise they don't, they move out. So at least motivate them with some benefits so that they can retain, the skill is retained, they can remain in the mold making or die making industry.
Thank you. Mr. Mittul, you have been closely working with the Japanese tooling community and Japanese manufacturing industry. According to you, what are few things that we can learn from Japan in terms of tool making, also or developing a skill set?
It's very simple. Follow the basics. One line. Trust me.
And if you have to elaborate it?
Well, you see, the Japanese tooling industry has evolved over a period of time. Now, we make about 4.5 million vehicles, almost equivalent to Japan. I'm talking about four-wheelers number, right? If you add two-wheelers and others, it's much, much more. Now, that has not happened over a period of time. they gradually, over a period of time, they achieved something and they sustained something. And whether it is plastics, lamps, I mean, it was lamps, I think one of the initial stages, and sheet metal. What has happened with the Indian industry, which is very different from Japan, is that after 2000, there is too much of thirst on the tooling localization. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, those who are sitting here in this room, including me, that there is a tremendous opportunity, but the base work has not been done. Okay. With this, when a child is in 10th or 11th grade, suddenly the expectations become that you will now appear in the masters. So, with this situation, whatever has happened in Japan, if we just follow one thing, that follow the basics, other aspects are completely different from us. As far as the tooling, industry is concerned, there is a lot of localization happening. Whatever I'll speak, I'll try and explain the action points, what my other, fellow entrepreneurs are doing or what we are doing. For example, if we can localize the skin part toolings in India, those skin part toolings are running on high speed crossbar press line, transfer presses. One of our, prime customers, they have 4 or 5 different type of presses across their different manufacturing locations. When the tool is being designed in India, not in Japan, I'll reiterate, in India, that tool can run on any of their press machines. So, in last 10-15 years, where the primary thing for the tool maker is to make the tool, it is completely now getting shifted to make tools for the progressive presses, transfer presses, crossbar presses, and high-speed tandem press lines, where the quality of the tool is very important because the human intervention is very minimal. A progressive press can have a SPM from 30 parts per minute to, let's say, about 130 parts or 150 parts per minute. And what operator is doing? He is simply collecting the parts, observing any abnormality, so on and so forth. So gone those days when you are, explaining and boasting about, oh, I made this tool. Now it is in what time frame or the stipulated time you made the tool.
So you are basically indicating that we need to invest more in technologies and also automate our processes.
Of course, of course. I think we just mentioned about the skill set. It's a real calipathy that we are, 1.4 billion people, a lot of tier 1. There are 2 to 3 times in a year, forgetting about tooling industry, there is an acute shortage of the manpower. I'm not going to go into the details. Same is happening with the tool makers. Different reasons, the young people are not ready to join because everybody wants to do the design, right? Without understanding that if you learn the software, you cannot learn the design. You have to understand, practice, and be at the shop floor so that in near future you can do the design. So you have to invest, in the new young blood and be prepared that young blood may not be from a very reputed institute or a college. So we have to keep our eyes, mind open, rational approach that what kind of talent I can attract, tie up with some good institutes, university, and have some tailor-made courses, be it vocational, be it certificate, and get your manpower ready. Maybe, it can be a part of your CSR scheme also to, be prepared for the right sort of young manpower. Having said that, use technology to, compensate for whatever we cannot do. use simulation software. Now, simulation software is a very good tool, and it's, I think we have some companies here present today. Keep on poking them. I say this with a lot of responsibility. Keep on, throwing the results to them. That how will you do that is not that, oh, I'm not getting a green result. No, that is not the right way. You have to complete this cycle. You stop at some point, and it's a subjective matter where you stop. Revalidate that result of the simulation by conducting the trials, match, that's your revalidation. And there are different ways to do it. And if it doesn't matches, I'm keeping my explanation very short. Please throw those results back to the simulation guys that it is not matching. That's one of the ways. And if any one of you wants to connect with me after the session, I'll explain in detail that how we are doing it. Right. So that's one of the good ways to compensate whatever you can't, get as a right skill set by using the technology.
Thank you. Kulkarni sir, I saw you nodding your head with a lot of, acceptance. Would you like to continue on that?
Very important point brought up by my co-panelist. And, when I mentioned ecosystem actually starts not only from the tool maker, but the ecosystem which helps to build his tool room, So one of the things is simulation. So what we do at, what we have done at Bajaj many years back is that we have experimented exclusively on how to validate and how to, perfect your own simulation results. And, very proudly I can say that, we are close to, 95% accuracy level in terms of prediction of results. And that is one of the ways that, you have to shorten the lead time that you have to, invest into how to build the ecosystem. And so, the tool makers who are associated with us know exactly, what is the level of accuracy that is expected and what are the guidelines to achieve those. So, standardization, preparing guidelines, and to revalidate them in, a periodic cycle is very, very important. So, that is the exact reason that, I was absolute agreement with my co-panelists that this kind of work is absolutely necessary, not only to enhance your own skills, but it is mandatory to make it as short as possible so that your time to build the tool is from weeks to days. And simulation will definitely help you to reduce, the trials are conducted. So I keep on telling all the tool making fraternity associated with us is that your T0 should be the clearance for going ahead with the texture period. There should be nothing in between. So simulation is one way to achieve them, and obviously other guidelines that steel selection or feed system selection or any other topic which is associated with that. And in order to build that, you have to invest in people who are ready to be associated in a long term. So and that is the reason that you should keep the fraternity as close knit as possible, with different ways of engagement. And I have a suggestion for TAGMA is that you have a couple of good things, that this panel discussions, their fireside chats are there. Apart from that, you have your tool talks, which I was a part of a year back or so. I would look at more focused small events that happen throughout the year, where there's a very small focus group where these kind of ideas can be demonstrated through different methods that which we are already doing with our own tool makers, and which will be definitely helpful for the entire fraternity at large, so that the only few minutes of talk may not guide them to what they should be doing. So this is one suggestion I have for TAGMA.
Thanks for your suggestion. I'm sure all our management and EC members are there, and we'll take a note of it. Thank you so much. Mr. Sumit, to you. Last week, I was in aerospace and defense conference, and many of the aerospace leaders said unanimously that, welders are very hard to find, and some of the welders in the aerospace industry earn more than engineers and scientists also. What are that particular skill set in tooling industry that is still in shortage, according to you, where we have to work?
Specific to aerospace.
Tooling.
For tooling, right? So tooling, I think, especially I would say that first of all, there are different classification of the kind of people who have some certain machines, right? So they can make their capacities available for companies like us, T, or any other company which are into high scale tooling production. Then the second is basically what we see, and we offer, sometimes we take small inserts and then elements which we take from them, and then the third portion I already told you, I mean, there is the other one, right, form where we take the entire solution, it's a tooling, right? So for localized in India, actually, what we can do is we can partner with those kind of these tool rooms, right? And we can collaborate for future long term strategies, right? So it's a more of a knowledge transfer, upgradation, so that I think we can work hand in hand, and then we can grow together. So that's how we can upskill them, we can train them, we can give them the exposure what is really need of the industry, and they can partner with each other. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Padmanabha, to you, for the future, to become future ready for the automotive industry, what are those 2-3 capabilities you would want your tool makers to have?
Okay. First thing, with respect to the localization, where our OEMs also spoke about it. So we want to develop our local industry, then we must encourage them to make the tool in India itself. There will be problems initially, so at least support them. What will happen is, instead of months, instead of weeks, it may come in months, but see how you can support wherever it is not critical. So then they can develop their experiences in India, and over a period, we can become more independent on the tool making. What I see skill set is mainly experiences, what they must achieve. Work as a tool maker for a longer period, gain more experiences, and digitalization is one of the data what is most important, where they collect more data, create a data structure, and see how that can be used for the future tooling industry.
Thank you. Now we have just, I think, 11 minutes left. So one question to each of you, about 20 minutes, before we move on to any questions from the audience. So starting with you, Mr. Kulkarni. I believe, as far as my knowledge, I think most of your tools are, sourced domestically. But I'm sure you must have imported before. So would you like to share your journey from, importing to entirely sourcing it from India?
Yeah, so we started our journey good 25 years ago, when we were importing tools from Italy and many other areas like Kanta and Japanese tool rooms like Moriroko and of those likes. And one of the compelling reasons is that unless there is a focused approach to ensure that the product launch timeline is met, our journey of localization doesn't start. It is not necessarily always cost driven, but it is something which is driven because of the timelines. And we have today's the tagline for today's seminar is from capable to credible. So in fact, there are many more stages for the transformation from being capable, knowledgeable, and many other aspects of it. So it starts getting built one by one. It is identifying correct resources, correct tool makers, and building your own guidelines. As I was mentioning about simulation, similar thing has been done for every aspect of tool making. Whether it is what steel to use. I have a lot of colleagues sitting here who have worked with us in the past for having a very correct approach for defining the type of steel. And so that is applicable for every aspect, and that has been the part of the journey. So the learning curve has been very steady, and we could reach 100% localization, I mean, somewhere in the year 2014 or 2015, after which we absolutely started manufacturing all the tools, except for barring a few lamp tools, as everybody's been mentioning. But to that extent also, a lot of these kind of tools have been happening in India. And one of the keynote speakers also mentioned about 2K capabilities. So 2K capabilities absolutely very much available in India, and there are very good companies who have not only learned this by doing experiment and building their capabilities around this. So it is you have to define a journey of what I need to achieve, whether it is in terms of quality, whether in terms of timelines, and then follow that. In fact, I was one of the things that we need to understand is that we can't stop at credibility. Credibility is actually of the past. Credibility we would have established maybe 5 years ago, that this is the stage that I am today in ever changing scenario that you also mentioned a few minutes back. We have to start becoming predictable. And when we say predictable, is means whatever is that external threat, or whatever is the change in external situation, or an internal change, one has to make sure that I am not only agile but prepared for tomorrow. So at every stage there are certain deliverables of what one needs to benchmark themselves, so that the next stage is always visible. So today, if you have to give a mantra that how you can become predictable for your own customers, and whether it is timeline, whether it is in terms of cost, or the precision that our co-panelists are talking about, that has to be very, very clearly ingrained and defined for next 2 years to achieve.
Thank you. Mr. Sumit, as you said that your most of the tool requirements are made from the import. What are your suggestions to the Indian tool makers for you to start sourcing from India most of your tools and reduce your imports?
Okay, so why we take is basically since when we go to specific automotive, connectors, so there is a specific requirement of, that IP67. So means, and then connectors are tested under very harsh condition. So the iteration, right? So once you do a T0, right? So there are a couple of conditioning loops associated, because these tools are designed with MMC, maximum metal conditions, so that to meet the 100% dimensional requirement and the application. So the complete the cycle what we see with the supplier, or when we do in-house also, right? So that period is a bit longer, right? So if we are able to reduce that period, that from T0 to the qualification, right? So if we are able to optimize that time within 4 to 5 weeks, so I mean that is something we should target, right? So because the experience is that time, it's much higher when we try out touring in India, right, with local suppliers. Whereas when we get tooling, so that cycle is smaller, right? So why that is so? Basically the kind of we were discussing, right, simulation, the kind of simulations, the kind of test we run during our DFM, right, during the design phase. So that becomes very crucial. If you address all those variations which are you are going to experience after T0, if you bake in them, design proactively, then ultimately that lead time is shortened. So my suggestion is, let us bring those kind of analytics and softwares and then kind of skill set, so that the whole development time we can bring down. So I think that's the only challenge. If we are able to do that, we can manufacture.
Thank you. Sir, we have heard that simulation is being used continuously, and there are so many tool makers who are using it also. But futuristic technologies like digital twin, AI is also being talked about. Even during inauguration, many leaders call for use digital twin. What are your take on that? Are tool makers using digital twin and AIs currently?
Yeah, it will really help. Depends on how much data you collect and then give it to the software manufacturer for converting it to a usable software. That will really help for example, simulations. We give the data back to them, like what mentioned by our colleague. This will reduce the lead time for the tool manufacturing. And what I say is tool makers, the reason for increasing the manufacturing time I see is most of them, they accept many customers, many toolings, and they do in parallels. And some cases we have seen where they can meet within weeks also. Within weeks also we have got some orders. So if somewhere they could focus on the proper management, program management, project management for these toolings, they can deliver within that time.
Thank you. Mr. Soni, as a tool maker, what are your expectations from the OEMs and tier 1s to make this, the tooling industry, the tooling environment overall more powerful, more strong?
See, we are left with 3 minutes. It cannot be finished in 3 minutes, okay? But I'll try my level best. So, before I explain that what are the expectations on behalf of my, industry colleagues. Let me tell that what we as a toolmaker are doing. Then I think it will make more sense than what we can expect. So we as a toolmaker, if I try and correlate some of the data that we are making, let's say about, in terms of the four-wheeler only, 4.5 million four-wheelers in a year. And by the time we reach 2031, it shall be around, 10 million or so. Now with this, so many models which will come up, so we have to think about scaling. We are thinking about scaling up. And the dynamics for any tool maker when they are, let's say, working in a stipulated time on 10 components, which turns about to be 40 toolings, one component, 4 toolings, again, the sheet metal basic example. But now we are gearing up for, if it is 10 components simultaneously, it is an example, right? We have to jump to 30, then 50, and maybe 100. All right. So at any given point of time, whatever we have been doing up till now will not help, because the main challenge will not be the technology. The main challenge, Deepak San used one word called financial prudence. In nutshell, for the tool makers, the most important thing is to manage the cash flow. When you are doing 10 components and you have to gear up to do 50 components, right? You please imagine the amount of the cash flow management which has to go into the day-to-day management of the organization. Now you have to align your payment terms with the tier 1 who is placing the order or the OEM. When I say that you have to align the payment terms, then it even more, the responsibility on the shoulders of the tool maker, that you broadly, or we come to the customers and say, see, I have faith in my product. When you lift the tool, please pay me 100%. And that confidence is necessary. Otherwise, the tool makers are going to collapse for sure. Now, to have that sort of credibility, it is important for the project manager, the tool shop owner, that we make sure that that kind of tooling in the stipulated timeline is being done. There is another aspect, I might need maybe a minute more, that when we say that you execute the tooling in the stipulated timeline, anything which is 3 months to 5 months is fairly decent in case of the sheet metal. It is not to create a pressure on the tool maker. To me, if any customer is asking, sir, I need toolings in 4 months, 5 months, I am more than happy. Why? They are going to pay me early. I am going to make their tools in the stipulated timeline. My tools will be bought off. I will get my money and I'll put all those resources in the next set of toolings. So, if you see the complete cycle, that really helps. So, Mean when your customer is asking you to deliver the tool in that stipulated timeline, we as a tool maker now have started enjoying it, understanding it, and accepting it. It is happening. I don't want to name names, but there are so many companies like us who are in a position to deliver tools much faster what it used to be, let's say, pre-COVID time. So it is changing. For us, what is important in nutshell in terms of the financial thing, we request that you give us 2 purchase orders. One purchase order is for the tooling, second purchase order is for commissioning. Do you all agree? Do you all agree? Right? We commit that my tooling is going to run, it is not going to fail. Let me commit that on behalf of our industry, all the, my industry colleagues. You please pay us 100% and another PO, which is a service PO for the commissioning. It is required. It might take some of time, but you see, those who are there in the industry in last 15 years, in general, let me assure you, they are going to sustain. So you can take that chance. And in any case, they have their tool shop. They have invested, millions and millions in the high-speed machining, tryout presses, and a lot of other infrastructure. So it is a safe bet. You have an insurance. But that way, if we keep on, complementing each other, I am sure we will be able to localize many more toolings, in a much professional way. That's my final submission.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you. I think a few things, if I can take back as a conclusion, is that skill development is still needed. Lead time is still a challenge. We definitely need to co-create things. So that for that, I think cluster development is extremely important. And what you said in the last is also things that what tool makers expect from the automotive companies. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Himanshi, do we have time for 1 or 2 questions? I have one question. I'm not able to read. So if the gentleman can ask.
Only one.
Yeah. Sir, can you please read? I don't know.
Variations with respect to simulation. Okay. Variations with respect to simulation and actual trial results. Example, warpage and I don't know what's that. Reduce the same. Kishore Kulkarni from Flash Electronics. Variations with respect to simulation and actual trial results. I don't know what is the question. How to reduce the lead time or what? I don't know.
Maybe we'll discuss this offline.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to our panelists and, of course, to our moderator. May I request our moderator, Mr. Nishant Kashyap, to please step forward. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank our panelists for their time, also for sharing these wonderful insights and giving all of us some takeaways. May I please request you to firstly thank one of our panelists and extend a token of appreciation to Sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. M.G. Padmanabha. Mr. Santosh Kulkarni. Mr. Sumit Rathore. Mr. Mittul Soni. May I request all of you to please come together for a group picture. While you do that, may I please request Mr. Ajit Gupta, EC member, to join us on stage. Mr. Gupta, may I request you please hand over a token of appreciation to our wonderful moderator, Mr. Nishant Kashyap. Thank you. Thank you. Gentlemen, please come together for a group picture.